item, which is agenda item 12. And again, this is with Hayley, and it's the development and impact of speech, language and communication support in early years services.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm moving on to reference speech, language and communication services in Flintshire, and they are not separate from the item that I've just discussed. They're very integrated. You can see from the report the definitions of speech, language and communication, so I won't go over those, but they're really important to understand that the development of speech, language and communication is absolutely fundamental to a child's ongoing success in life. And the point I'd really like to emphasise from the summary is that parents and immediate caregivers are the most important people in a child's life when it comes to language development. It doesn't sit with childcare, it doesn't sit with school, it must sit with the parents and the immediate caregivers around that child for it to work effectively. So 1.01, there is quite a long definition of speech, language and communication and what that's broken down into. And I think that in Flintshire, we've been very successful in understanding those three different elements of how children acquire language and how that's really important to their overall development. The early identification and targeted intervention are critical to preventing long-term disadvantage. Now, when we look at the figures, over 10% of children and young people in the UK have persistent speech, language and communication needs that can limit their ability to learn. Now, what that means is that 10% of children is critical anyway, but what we also need to look at is how overrepresented those 10% of children are in the youth justice and prison population. So it's really vital that we see speech, language and communication as really integral, a part of development. And I think sometimes we focus on different parts of children's development. The other thing I'd like to highlight, 1.02, is that Flying Start operates in the most disadvantaged areas of Flintshire because the deprivation impacts on children's development. So we know that where we're working in areas of deprivation, we can have the most impact. And the one thing that's I find people find quite surprising is that vocabulary at age 5 is the best predictor about whether children are able to escape poverty and increase their life chances. So the strategic importance of speech, language and communication support sits alongside other health measures. It sits really well along socio-emotional development, health measures, diet and things like that, and it needs to be seen as an element in its own right. So we work from the Welsh Government Guidance for Speech, Language and Communication. In Flintshire, we deliver those really comprehensively according to the guidance, and we offer a range of interventions, home visit-based and group-based interventions. You can see a description of the team. We're a multi-agency team with local authority teams and commissioned health service staff as well, and we all work really closely together. The team's really instrumental in fostering speech, language and communication development in childcare settings as well, because the Flying Start childcare offer is really fundamental to children's development. So this includes the world of childcare practitioners as well. We've given at 1.06 a definition of some of the interventions and practice that we have across Flintshire, which due to time I won't go into huge amounts of detail, but we've got such a range of measures that what we try to do is from the antenatal stage, our speech and language therapist comes in and speaks to parents about language acquisition in the womb, and that builds on with baby groups where we're really encouraging parental interaction, we're really encouraging sound making. But what I want to emphasize today is that speech, language and communication isn't about words, it's about the relationship between the parent and the child. So not only is vocabulary an indication of how well a child can progress and learn, it's an indication of the quality of the relationship that the parent has with the child. So what we're trying to do is bring the right interventions in at the right time. And this is really true for cases where children are potentially on the child protection register if there are safeguarding concerns, because where that relationship with the parent, between the parent and the child isn't brilliant, we know that we can do work to support that. So in 1.06, the final point there is the Paris outcome measure, and this is a measure that was introduced by Welsh Government last year, where the evaluation tool for our speech and language interventions is actually a measure of the quality of the relationship between the child and their caregiver, and also the home environment, the environment that that child's being brought into, which relates back to Sarah's point about the neglect framework and tools used there. Outcomes and impact, again, I've presented quite a comprehensive overview of some of the progress that children make in their language development and language acquisition. I think it might be worth noting that the majority of children do progress due to the pathway and the interventions, but there is a residual of approximately 10% of children who haven't made the necessary progress over the course of about 6 months to a year once those speech, language and communication needs are identified, which really ties in with the national statistics of 10% of people having a residual speech and language need. What we're doing in Flintshire is we're identifying that 10% before they get to the age of 4. So what happens is they go into core speech and language services earlier. They are identified before they go to school and the right support put in place. So we can't deal with persistent speech and language needs, and sometimes the relationship between the parent and the child is not great. So we can't solve that. But what we would like to highlight is the early intervention work that's going on in Flintshire. Further to this report, and I've mentioned what our team might do in terms of suggestions. We go in with ideas. It's really simple stuff. I know we're running really late, but yesterday I joined a group of parents where we made these. So the idea is that parents come into the groups, and instead of anything that is overwhelming, we don't show lots of word. We're very aware of parental literacy levels in Flintshire. So we're focusing on conversation starters between parents and children. And this is, it's making this is a brilliant way of caregivers being able to communicate with their children and their toddlers. But also, instead of looking at a TV, the amount of fun that you could have with this, the noises, the way that you can start conversations is really effective. There is, since I wrote this report, there's been a development in that the UK government have issued a call for evidence in the use of screens in infancy and early childhood. And I think this is one of the things that our team are going to be really effective in supporting. They're already having conversations with parents about appropriate screen use with toddlers, which is very, very, very little, and how we take that forward and bring that into our practice. The speech, language and communication model that is developed by Flying Start, developed by Welsh Government, what we're doing in Flintshire is part of that model. But what I'd like to highlight is that the cohesion of the pathway that children follow from the antenatal period through to age 4, the strands that we follow, making sure that every child under the Flying Start programme has a screening at 20 months and then has that ongoing support. We're making a lot more effective use of our resource within the service by, we don't offer this out necessarily as a universal pathway, but for those families that need it, they're able to draw on the support as and when they need it. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Hayley. Councillor Mackie.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the report. It's something that's very important. This is my education file. On the 23rd of October, this came up in education. And I just want to give you some facts. You've given us some numbers. These are some numbers that were reported to the Education Scrutiny Committee. And I'm going to start with this one. This is reports on ALN and SEN in maintained schools by type of need, 2024. The top one is speech, language and communication difficulties. So there you can see it. That is 18,000. So of that cohort, 18,000, the biggest issue by a mile. That's right. This is a table produced by Youth Justice. You mentioned Youth Justice, and here you've got all the various issues that their clients exhibit. 38% of children and young people presented with speech, language and communication needs. So, I mean, this is supporting what you've said. But the really interesting thing was this comment within the report. It said, to embed speech and language therapy into every youth justice team, and as the provision of such services within youth justice is not statutory, health boards in Wales do not currently have dedicated staffing or funding to resource to provide it, which I thought, when you look at the other things I've shown you, was absolutely terrible, because clearly it's a vital situation, a vital matter, something that we've got to get to terms with. And obviously the authorities decided that it's going to do it itself. But so the question I'm coming to, I'll get there in the end, is that it's not, is it just, you said it's just Flying Start, and I'm not quite sure what you said about universal provision of this. So that's my question.
Thank you, Councillor. It's a very pertinent question. The speech, language and communication offer in Flintshire is based around Flying Start, which, as you are aware, is postcode targeted. If I just draw your attention to, I'm really sorry, I've lost which point I need to refer to, but any child in Flintshire can be referred in for speech and language for the support that I've described, either by a parental self-referral or by a health visitor or by a childcare setting. And what I've tried to highlight, you'll see a table in 1.09 is the increase in referrals for speech, language and communication that are coming in from our own areas, but also from our outreach service as well.
I think that is so important, because these sorts of problems don't occur, well, sorry, they're not governed by postcodes. And I've always felt that about Flying Start, that you can have somebody living there who's just outside, still has the problem, but no, sorry, you're not somebody there. So it's just a personal comment that.
May I come in on that, Chair? So our groups that we run are open to the community. So the stay and play groups that we run are open access. And from those groups, you might be able to progress into one of our dedicated speech and language groups. And that's what we want to do with speech, language and communication, make it very open across Flintshire.
Councillor Lister.
Thank you. They're all very connected, aren't they, the reports that we've had today, and with Sarah's report as well. And I do feel really strongly that this is an investment, isn't it? It's something that the local authority has to prioritise. If we want to lift people out of poverty, we need to improve their language. We need to support our most vulnerable children. And I just think we all need to bear that in mind when we make the decisions that we have that responsibility for. I did just have one question. And it was when I had my children before COVID, there were an abundance of toddler and parent groups to go to, singing and all the things that bring on language. And there was obviously a huge hiatus, which has probably had a massive impact now on children that are 5, 6, 7, isn't it? And their language. Are you seeing that? And have we been able to recover those groups? And because I think people's sort of mindsets on how you entertain your children have changed since COVID. I mean, I've noticed through my experience, primary school children speaking with American accents, because a lot of the language they've learned has come from YouTube, and it's a bit of a concern, I think. So I was just wondering if there was any kind of anything we can do really to bring back that parent toddler socializing really.
Thank you for your question. Yes, our goal, well, my goal in bringing this here today really is to raise that awareness and to let you know that we've got those informal groups running throughout Flintshire, where parents can come on a weekly basis. And what we're trying to do is promote that right from the baby groups that we run, and they are all open access. If you follow our social media pages through Family Information Service, you'll see where these groups are running. And I think that we need the whole community to promote it, not just have an awareness within our own service. And what you're sort of talking about needs to be wider than just when parents are in receipt of services. It needs to be a community-led message.
Do any other members, or would any other members like to ask any questions of Councillor Healy?
I just would like to say this is what I've heard here. It's fantastic. We have to let this go. And I must say, we cannot cut education and social care anymore. This is me. We can't cut this anymore. This is the young people of tomorrow. Next thing I just wanted to say is, I forgot now. Do you go to, how can I say, play groups? And do not forget the rural areas. Rural areas is very isolated, and like it's only like very small play groups. Like in my area, Hope, it's a play group in the hall there, in the church hall, and it must have only about 10 children and that, but please don't forget the rural areas as well. Thank you.
The outreach service that I mentioned earlier, what we are seeing is, like you say, we're not able to set up large groups in the rural areas, so we're doing more one-to-one in the family home. But we are looking for opportunities to run groups in Hope and Fly, and also in, we've got the other side of the county as well, in Gronant and Pennaforth, where we're finding that families are wanting this support.
Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Diolch. Just to say, I mean, Flying Start, we've always been the front runner on it, haven't we? It was developed in Flintshire. Carl Sargent brought it here. Our first one was Brindeva in Connors Quay. That's going back a long time now, isn't it? And it's just grown and grown and grown, gone from strength to strength. The team are absolutely fantastic, always have been. And it started small, but it's grown so much in the services that it now provides. It's also grown in areas as well, whereas it was a small area to begin with. I think we had a couple just dotted around in a few of the towns. Now it's virtually everywhere across Flintshire. And we've also got a lot of capital that we've provided for Flying Start. We've added on to schools. We've done extensions. We've done, haven't we? We've built on. We've done all sorts to our already existing schools for the Flying Start projects. So that, again, RIF funding has provided for that as well, hasn't it? Capital funding from Welsh Government again. They're really good actually with early years, aren't they? You know, providing funding, providing grants. And our early years team really know how to spend that money. You are so good at getting grant funding and spending it appropriately. So every child and families get the best service, best provision, because you and Gail and the team just know exactly what is needed for those children. And it's always spent wisely, isn't it? And this and with Sarah's team, with the Early Help Hub, again, we were a front runner with the Early Help Hub, weren't we? You know, it was tried by us, developed, and it's just gone, again, from strength to strength. And our early years provision in Flintshire is second to none. It is our children and our young children, babies, toddlers, school age, are so well looked after and well cared for. And this is a brilliant report, and I've really enjoyed listening to you again, Hayley. As always, you're so professional and you really know your stuff, don't you? You're absolutely amazing. And I've really enjoyed this afternoon. So thank you. And the Oxford Brain story, I think that's just something we've got to run with, isn't it? We really have. But Flying Start, we've always supported it, and we will continue to, won't we? Because it's been our baby, hasn't it?
I just wanted to thank elected members. It's been a long session. For me, we started with budget and started with pressures. And I think what I particularly have heard, especially as we've ended, is about services that I think the public don't know that the council provide, and they don't appreciate the work that where we're taking finite budget and investing it in services that we know have an evidence about impact and will make a difference. So I think it's quite fitting that we've almost done that full circle to demonstrate this isn't just about overspends and budget pressures. It is about using money wisely and about investment and about getting the best for our residents, even if they don't know what we're doing behind the scenes, because I think it is really important. And I just thank you for your support this afternoon in working through these reports.
Thank you, Craig. That just leaves us with the recommendations. So we're being asked to support three things. One is the promotion of awareness of Flying Start Flintshire's comprehensive offer, supporting the champion SLC support as a priority for early years investment, and supporting the integration of SLC strategies across wider early years and education services. Councillor Mackie to move, Councillor Thew to second. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. That concludes the meeting. Diolch, everybody. Thank you all for your time and engagement, and see you all soon.